Okay, we're talking today to Billy Keeton from the band Audiotopsy. How's your day going, mate?
Awesome. I can't complain. We're in Vegas today.
Oh, excellent. So you on tour at the moment?
Absolutely, yeah. We're out on tour with All That Remains, Devour the Day, and a band called Sons of Texas.
Oh, excellent.
Yeah,
Having a blast?
I can't complain. We're doing pretty good aside from a few little um, unexpected little mishaps like a tire blowing or a bus breaking down. Other than that, we're doing pretty good, man.
Oh, well, there we go. That's not too bad. I mean, look at Fear Factory. I think they've just had a major bus accident themselves.
Yeah, there's a lot of accidents kind of going around right now for sure. But look, we've been really lucky now. We just have only lost a tire on a
Yep.
trailer, and then I think that one of the other bands actually had some mechanical problems on a bus the other night. We had to cancel a show, but other than that, it's just been smooth, man. I mean, we're finally out on our first tour. We're very, very, very happy.
Excellent. Yeah, I mean, you're heading into Thanksgiving weekend too. I mean, the weather over there is meant to be not too flash either.
Yeah, we're in the southwest part of the United States right now, and I got to say the weather is just beautiful. It's wicked. It's literally almost like not of this earth. To be perfectly honest with you, I mean, it's sort of cold, but at the same time, the sun will kind of get on you and burn you a little bit, and the skies are blue, and the air is clear, and But we're getting ready to go up north where it's kind of nasty, from what I understand. So we're taking it all in, if you know what I mean.
Very cool. Anyway, so I'd like to talk to you. I guess the first question would be a little bit about the band name. Could you tell us where that came from and what it means to you?
Sure, absolutely. Well, the band name was originally basically introduced to the group by Matt. Matt is the drummer of the band, and he basically has an enormous list of band names. I think he's probably got a whole notebook full of band names that he's collected over the years, and this just happened to be one of the names in the list. Well, so we as a group, when it was beginning to get passed around, we were all basically like, look, this is a really cool band name, but what is it? How does it tie in to what? How could it tie in possibly to what we're doing? And basically, we thought it really worked really well for us because it kind of is indicative of maybe cutting the music open and taking a good look at it from the inside. Kind of like a doctor would do maybe at an autopsy or something like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I get you.
There's a correlation there, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, no, I can see that, mate. That's quite cool. Very cool. So you've just recorded the first album. How did that go, and how involved are you with the writing and the recording process?
Sure. Well, let's see. Well, I got a phone call from Greg Tribbett at a time when I was busy working on my own record. Uh, at the time, that's exactly what I was doing. And we spoke briefly for a minute or two, and I thought about it for a couple of days, and then I got back to him and I said, look, man, just send me some music and let's just see what this sounds like. I have my own little studio in my house, and it's really basically I'm always working on things, and so I was like, look, man, just send me some music. And that's kind of what happened. That's how it started. We demoed, I would say, 3 or 4 songs, and those initial versions of those demos basically ended up being the versions that went on the record. And if that kind of gives you any idea, as we moved forward, writing and putting some other songs together, we eventually got to the 10 song mark. We're kind of where we're at now with the full length, and it took about a year of going back and forth. And then once we finally got the whole package together, I think about half of it, we got about 7 songs written and demoed, and we decided, hey, let's get together and really record these. So Greg asked about the studio that I was in at the time, working on my own music, and the long and short of it is those guys ended up coming to Orlando where I was recording with Perry, our bass player, and that's how we started the Audiotopsy record. We did those first 7 songs, and then maybe about 3 or 4 months later, we got back together and we did another 3 in the same facility, and at that point we had our record. and we went on and moved into I guess the mixing and mastering phase of it all around that point. So it took about a year, and that's how we put it together, man. We were all in different parts of the country, actually.
Oh wow! So with that in mind, the lyrics and everything obviously came from you.
Yes, yes.
What would you describe as some of the lyrical themes that you have there?
Well, man, just basically just my heart and soul, pouring what my wicked insides out for the world to chew on, I guess you could say. Not really any specific one, thing I like to tap into. It's just, I've been writing music for a long time, writing songs for a long time, and I think I just still fall into the same formula that I always have. With this album, things were a little bit different. I got more of a chance and more of an opportunity to really focus in on this effort, I guess you could say. In the past, things have moved a lot faster. This was more of a slow build as far as the writing process goes. Everything else was super fast, but put a lot of heart and a lot of creative time and input into it for sure. Yes.
Excellent. So going back to the recording and all that sort of stuff, and you say you've got your own studio. How involved were you with the mixing and the producing and all that sort of thing?
Well, I mean, the record itself was self-produced. We all produced it. We didn't have a producer. We basically, it's self-produced. And that's what was the other part of the question you just asked?
Well, it was just about the mixing and everything.
Oh yeah. So from there basically we decided once we had this record in the can, we definitely needed to get it mixed. And I would say probably immediately Jay Baumgartner was one of the names that was being passed around. There were several others, but Jay was one of the first ones to come out and say that he wanted to mix this. And at the end of the day, after a pretty good while of trying to make some hard choices, we ultimately went with Jay Baumgartner to mix it. And I think that's why it sounds incredible too, because Jay is amazing.
Yeah, well, it definitely has a good sound. I mean, I actually reviewed the album as well, and I mean, I had a blast listening to it. It's a very cool album.
Thank you.
There's a heap of energy, and it sort of leads on to the next question, and that would be some of the influences of the band. I mean, I know that some of the guys have come from the likes of Mudvayne and Hell Yeah and all that sort of stuff.
Sure.
How much of that has come into the band, and how much is new stuff? I mean, because those guys being from there would have obviously brought or been an influence for that band to start with. So
yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, that's a good question, and the answer to that in a nutshell is that we didn't bring any of our old bands influence or sound, so to speak, into this band without it being kind of it was a totally natural thing, if is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
We didn't really sit down and discuss it. We didn't say, hey, look, man, we need to bring a little bit of this element into this. It just kind of naturally evolved that way, We have our old bands, but we really wanted to make sure that this record and that this sound that we were working on was unique to itself, and we knew that from the first note, there's no doubt about it. When we first started putting this album together, we knew we had something special that didn't sound like any of our old bands. You definitely can hear a little bit of Scrape, and you can hear a little bit of Mudvayne. I don't think anybody can really honestly say they hear much Hell Yeah in it, but maybe. But the reality is that we put a lot of time and a lot of effort into this effort, this body of work that doesn't really sound a lot like our old bands. At least we think so, and so it didn't really play a lot into it, to answer your question.
Yeah. Well, that was kind of the question, but it was also more about some of the influences out of that, because I mean, what as a singer, who are some of your favorites?
Oh, okay, yeah, sure. Well, I'm heavily influenced by Ronnie James Dio still to this day. Obviously, and that's an example of something old. Something new potentially would maybe be like, I love to listen to all of the Queens of the Stone Age catalog. We're always listening to Godflesh on our bus. Um, those are a couple of good examples of some new stuff that we kind of listen to, but we really try to make sure that we go down our own pathway, man. That's for sure.
Well, that's it. I mean, even though you love all these other bands, I mean, you got to be yourself, and that's what it's all about.
Absolutely.
Really, isn't it?
Oh yeah.
Excellent. So, can you tell us a little bit? I mean, because I know you've done a heap of stuff before you even became into this band. I mean, like you had Scrape, and then like you say, you've done your solo stuff.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about that? Because I mean, a lot of people may not be aware of your history.
Sure, absolutely. In 1999, I signed with RCA Records with a band called Scrape, and we were lucky enough to be able to be on that label for about 4 years, and we put out 2 albums. One is New Killer America, and the second one is Up the Dose. Both of those records are timeless albums that I definitely truly love. And then as the years ticked on, did a couple of little side projects here and there with a couple of different bands and things that really aren't even worth really mentioning. I've actually honestly spent the last decade kind of just being a dad. I have a son. He's in our video, by the way. The kid that's in the video for The Calling is my son. So I've been busy over the last decade doing music exclusively, but at the same time doing other things too. But if that answers your question.
That must have been an awesome buzz having your son involved with the video.
Absolutely, it was. Yeah, the band actually came to me and asked me if I would, be interested in such a thing, and would my son as well be interested. We thought about it, and it was kind of a no-brainer, actually.
Oh, definitely. I mean, that would be cool, eh?
Yeah.
And being a dad is, the biggest job of all. So
Yeah. So that's kind of where for everybody, for people that are scratching their head going, well, who is this guy? The reality is that Scrape was the band that put me on the map, and then over the last decade, I've kind of just been working on my own solo project, like we were talking about earlier. That is a record that I've been working on for about 4 years now. Eventually, it will come out, and it's wicked, man. And it's just basically me, a drummer, and a guitar player, and and that's kind of what's up. Greg called me up out of nowhere. I was really on the verge of putting my own record out, and I got a phone call from Greg, and it kind of sidetracked me a little bit with all that other stuff. So, the Audiotopsy is kind of where my head's at right now,
Well, I mean, and it must have been a pretty awesome buzz to know that they were looking for you, and to be working with musicians of that caliber. I mean, because
Sure.
those guys as well have had huge careers previously.
Yeah.
And to be involved with them must be a heap of fun.
Absolutely. They knew who I was because Scrape actually toured with Mudvayne several times back in the early 2000s. And that is how Greg and Matt knew who I was, because Scrape was on the road with Mudvayne. I lost track of how many shows we did with them, but that's how they knew me. And so ultimately, I got that phone call based on that. I'm almost positive, but I was very humbled and put everything to the side, family, everything, to get this band up and running, and I'm super happy about it.
Well, I mean, like I say, I reviewed the album myself, and I was impressed. I enjoyed it. It was, definitely a lot of originality in there. Even though, I mean, I could pick up some of the influences, as we say.
Sure.
But dude, I mean, it's an awesome album with a lot of variety. That was one of the things
Yeah,
I noticed.
yeah.
There was so many different styles in there. I mean, and it does get quite heavy in some of those tracks. So,
Sure.
It sort of covers the whole range for the listeners.
Absolutely.
Excellent. So I've got 2 more questions for
Sure.
you. Well, actually, sorry, I lied. 3.
Right.
First off, career highlights. What would be some of your career highlights?
Career highlight. Okay. Being asked to get up and sing with Pantera in, I believe it was somewhere, might have been in Vancouver, British Columbia. It was somewhere up in Canada. I can't really remember where it was, but it was an arena show. It was about maybe 13 years ago. It was on Pantera's last tour that they would ever do. And I was invited to come up and sing This Love with Phil. And I remember We traded verses and choruses off together in front of probably 30,000 people. I remember that day like it was just yesterday. And I remember Dime. This is a happy moment, too. I remember Dime coming up behind me and just shoving his headstock in the back of my back as hard as he could. And I turned around. I was like, wow, somebody just gouged me. And it was Dime. And he was just sitting there just laughing at me, pointing at me. And, you know, that was a great moment, too, because I think somebody grabbed a deli tray and was throwing lunch meat on the stage at that moment too as well. It was just a bright moment that I won't ever forget, because it was their last tour, the last tour those guys were ever together on, you know, and I was there. We did that tour with them, you know, and so that was a considerable high point, you know.
Oh, I completely understand, and dude, I mean, I was lucky enough to see them twice down here in New Zealand, so yeah, I mean, dude, it was Pantera.
Oh, of course, man. Yeah, I was there. I got to do that. I'll never forget that. That was a high point.
Oh, dude, I can imagine that being the high point of anybody's life. Two more questions. One, any chance of you guys getting down to New Zealand or Australia?
Just give us a call. We'll be there in a heartbeat, man. I mean, we love. Hopefully we can get down to Australia and New Zealand and all in one trip. And if we do, maybe later on in the year. Not any plans at the moment, but we're out touring right now, and just, you know, who knows where we're headed. We're just hoping to stay out and continue to ride this wave, man. This Audiotopsy wave.
Awesome. That's the way to go. And last question for you. Words of advice for young musicians.
Words of advice for young musicians. Dig into your craft. Don't listen to a lot of authority figures, man. And just do what you want to do. Keep it in the lines, if you know what I mean. And try to be original. Try to be as original as you can. And that would be my advice to young kids right there.
Oh, that's awesome. Hey, thank you so much for your time today, Billy. We really appreciate it.
Thank you very much, man. Talk to you guys very soon. Hopefully see you in New Zealand when we're there.